can't get anymore. They've done some more engineering work and they've come out with their newest and latest and greatest model. We have 3 or 4 of these. It's not that they won't work anymore, it's just that you can't buy them anymore. Okay? This one here is good for 12 circuits only. That's it. And it has limitations on it. The limitations are, this is for a residential application only, so you can't hook this up to a 600 volt panel. These things are manufactured in the States. What's the American voltage? What's the American equivalent of our 600 volts?
To 400 something.
400 something.
480, yeah.
480.
Yeah.
These things are designed, and it's written right on here, 277/480. You know the correlation between the two is the square root of 3, right? Okay, so it goes 277 to 480. That's it. That's the maximum voltage you can put on. If you buy one of these units and you want to hook it up to a Canadian voltage, you have to put little transformers out here to make that happen. It can happen. I'm going to discuss that in the lecture here in a minute. Okay? But no, they're not even here. We don't have them here. Because this is not a 600 volt panel. I don't have to worry about it. The voltage coming into this panel is 208 volt. 120/208. Those are quite capable of doing that. Okay? One of the things, remember I said you had 12 circuits? Here's one circuit. It just pops off. This is connected to a CT, and I'm going to, at the table, I'm going to kind of explain how all that works. But these CTs, they open up, you put them around the wire, you close them up, and you come back down in here and you plug it back in. You have to tell that thing what type of CT you've just plugged in. You have to make sure that the orientation of the CT is proper. There's an arrow on it, and that arrow points towards the load. So the electrical current is going towards that load. You have to tell this machine what CT or what size of CT it's connected into it. And you also have to kind of do a bit of a map. When you go to a restaurant and you open up their electrical panel and you put all these things on, you're hooking it up to breaker number 1 or number 3 or number whatever. And those breaker numbers are right here. You have to document exactly everything that you can. Now, when the second years and I were doing this here earlier this year, they made a table that's up here. And I'm going to be referring to that in a few minutes, all right? There's 12 CTs, labeled 1 to 12. Some of them are 15 amp CTs, some of them are 20, some of them are 30. Some of them are 100, okay? The ones that are in here range from 15 to 30. I'll show you the larger ones later. But you have to tell it exactly what amperage the CT is capable of, okay? And you have to tell it which phase of the voltage that it's actually measuring. Now the phases in a 3-phase system are color-coded, red, black, blue, in Canada. In the United States it's black, red, blue, but here it's red, black, blue. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. The CT has to know, the E-gauge, has to know what phase CT5 is on. So when you're hooking it up in the panel, you have to know this. Coming down from top to bottom on both sides, it's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, in a 3-phase panel. That's how the breaker configuration is done, the breaker panel. On a single-phase system, 2-phase system, it's phase 1, phase 2, phase 1, phase 2, all the way down, both sides. That's just the makeup of the architecture of the panel. Okay? So it's red, black, blue, red, black, blue, red, black, blue in a 3-phase system. So it's quite easy to go phase 1, phase 2, phase 2, phase 3, and they've actually gone the distance and started to figure out what some of these loads are actually connected to. Now it's a little deceiving in here, but if you were at a restaurant or at home, in my place I had one of these on for a period of time, and I wanted to know how much energy my heat pump was using. I wanted to know how much energy my beer fridge was using. I wanted to know how much energy my deep freeze was using. So I hooked them up to all these breakers, knowing which breaker I wanted, and then I did my map. You need to write all of that down, because when you have everything all connected, you're less than half done. Now you have to configure the whole thing via the internet. Okay? That hardware part of it makes sense? Mm-hmm. Okay? I'm going to talk when we get over to the table. I'm going to talk about these individual CTs a little bit, but that's kind of the gist of it. Now all this red stuff here, this is a different system. This is the TED monitoring system, the energy detective.
Oh yeah.
Okay, this is this demonstration that I want, or talk here, is just going to be on this unit. Okay, This thing here is a residential version of this, a little bit more homeowner. It's not as friendly. It doesn't work in here very well. We've tried it. The reason it doesn't work is that it's not meant for a three-phase system. It's meant for home energy auditing only, and it's meant for a single-phase system. And it does not have a lot of the features that I was led to believe that it does have. It's one of those options you can hook it up. I did have this hooked up to my house as well. My house, my electrical panel is open all the time. I've got stuff hanging out of it continually, testing it out to making sure that it can do things. The problem with bringing it in here and having you guys do it in here is it's not a real application. This is residential stuff only, okay? So it's hard to teach residential in a commercial building with commercial voltages. Okay, so I'm not gonna talk too much about this. This is the guy here we're gonna deal with, okay?
That
Communications.
is a tool option though.
It is one of the tools
Yeah.
options, and if you want, I'll set it up in somebody's
Okay.
house,
Yeah.
and you can monitor your things for a bit if you want to do that, okay? So this is the energy detective, TED, and this is the spider. The spider gets connected into here and branches out to more CTs, that's all that part of it. Basically does exactly the same thing that this does, but it's at a lower price. This is $500, not $1,000. Okay, you get what you pay for. In fact, the newer version of this has come down in price even more. I think they're around $500 a piece right now. We're gonna look at that online here in a minute. So, you've collected all the data. Does the data live in there? No, it's all web driven. Everything is web driven. So there's a data cable or a communications cable on this one. This is an option. The newer pieces, you don't have to have a data connection on it. It's done wirelessly. And I'm gonna explain that once again when I get going in the lecture, okay? So all of the data gets gathered, gets accumulated in here. You tell this thing how often to measure and what you're measuring and all of that stuff, okay? All that information has to be programmed into this thing. And it's all done online. This is a full web-based system. If this is plugged in online, all you have to do to find it is go to the eGauge site, just type the word eGauge in, and the first thing that will come up will be find. So find your device, click on that, and enter the 5-digit number. There it is. Enter that number, and you're right there. And it downloads all the data for you, and it's all sitting there waiting for you.
So we can do that at home?
We're gonna do, yep, you
Yeah.
can connect it, I think you can connect into this one from home.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna connect into it here in a couple minutes to show you what, I thought it was running all along, it hasn't been running, I just started it this morning, so there may not be any data, but we can get connected to it, I can show you that part of it. That make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna give you, there's too much stuff to give you all the details in the time that we have here this morning, but I'm gonna give you enough details that, you know, over the weekend, if you're gonna work on that one, come Monday, I'll help you with some additional information. I'm just covering off the top layer of this right now. The connection part, you got that pretty well figured out?
Yes.
Not too complicated? All right, let's go back and we'll take a look at some of the information over here.